Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. We actually have breaking news. As long as Curtis Magic Calloward is not lying to us, he actually just told us that Aqueduct is canceled, that we can't handle the cold, just like they can't handle the rain out west. I really hope he's not lying to me because I hadn't seen this until he said something. I do give him credit for waking up at 8 and giving us this information just before we went on. Luckily for us, we're not doing Aqueduct today, but if you did come on here and you were looking for anything Aqueduct, I promise you're not going to get it now. I'm sure Aaron's trying to find this out as we do this. So I'm going to talk real quick. Again, that news is just breaking that Aqueduct is canceled today. I've never seen them cancel for cold before. For weather. I've never seen that, only snow. So this is news to me. I'll be honest, I haven't been outside because of COVID for a few days, but no one told me it was that cold. And Curtis says, this is why I woke up. That is a good reason to wake up. Aaron, do you have anything you want to chime in with real quick?
I don't think they're canceled today. The press release says they're canceled tomorrow. They're canceled on Friday. Well,
that Curtis, thank you for that. They are canceled tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know
for today. This is what you get on the Rocket Hour. You get live up. There it is.
High winds and extreme cold forces cancellation of Friday racing at Aqueduct.
Fantastic. So if you listened at the very beginning, we are not canceled at Aqueduct. I'll take everything I said back. We are not canceled today. But on a serious note, we will be heading to Florida again. And Curtis said I said that. And then he followed up with, this is why I shouldn't wake up early. Well, thank you for trying to ruin the first few minutes. No, in all seriousness, he was just trying to pass along news.
First of all, he didn't say this. Look at this. Aqueduct's canceled. Y'all can't handle the cold just like we can't handle the rain.
That seems to me like today is canceled.
We're supposed to think that we're just supposed to assume that that's tomorrow.
Yeah, right. And Dennis even said you didn't say that. You just said that they're canceled, not that they're canceled tomorrow. Okay, so I'm not taking any blame for it. I do give Curtis some credit for really trying to get us that news, but unfortunately, he's talking about tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Nonetheless, we have Gulfstream to cover, and enough with New York and Florida. And even though I'm here in New Jersey, forget all that. We have stuff to do. That's why we came on here. At the same time, if there is a cancellation of today's card, we'll try to pass that along, but we don't think there is. Andy Sterling actually came out with scratches probably about a half hour to 45 minutes ago, so I would assume they did not cancel in that time. But nonetheless, Curtis, I appreciate you for trying to get us that information. Without further ado, how was your night? Let's just we'll try to transition in a proper way here.
Yeah, let's do it. It was good. Everything's good. And I got on the show and I'm like, holy shit, Aqueduct canceled. That's not good. And then it's Friday. So no big deal. No worries there. Yeah, I'm excited. Listen, I got a big chuckle out of you went on a rant about the Ravens passing game coordinator. And he's going to the Texans. And now Deshaun Watson wants a trade. It's like, wow, that is freaking hilarious. I loved that this morning.
Nothing you just said is wrong. I will say, he's the man's 65 years old and he finally got a head coaching job. So I give him a lot of credit for sticking around and finally getting that opportunity. The minute he steps into that facility, Deshaun Watson's locker will probably be emptied out. So that's sad. But nonetheless, I did say they have to pass the ball more. I don't know what quarterback they're going to have. Maybe they'll make some trades. So that is breaking news in terms of football. Let's get into some horse racing, because that's what we do here on the show. This is a really, really good sequence. And again, like always, we'll scroll some of our tickets at the bottom and our thoughts and things like that. We will recap yesterday because we got a few comments about how close we were. I read the race that we were the most confident about perfectly, so we're going to get into that. Let's start with today's sequence. This is claiming for 16,000 for 4-year-olds and upward, going about 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Again, the about 7.5 furlongs. Don't get it, but okay. I'll start with you. You have a win bet, I believe, in this spot. I'll just leave it at this. Are you kind of all in on Dr. Shane, or are you going to try to beat him in this spot?
Yeah, I am all in on Dr. Shane. So I'll open it up with a $20 win bet on number 1, Dr. Shane. And, you know, the funny thing is, usually when I do $20 to win on the show, the strike rate is pretty well. But the bad thing is, we'll get into it a little bit later, my $20 win wager yesterday lost. So I've got 2 of them today. This is the first one, number 1, Dr. Shane. Ricky, I think you can appreciate my handicapping here. 2 back, this horse was at Aqueduct, and you've harped on, listen, Aqueduct to Gulfstream, Belmont to Gulfstream. This is what you need to look for. Well, last time out, did just that at Gulfstream. Finished second, beating 3/4 of a length. Ran a pretty good race, kind of looked like a winner, and just lost it right at the end. Had the lead turning for home. Saez right back aboard today. Same conditioned level here, and just seems like the logical play to me. And I think we've kind of established that speed on the turf at Gulfstream is what you need. You don't necessarily have to be on the lead, but you kind of need to be close up. And this horse can kind of do either or. If say the 3 or the 4, which I think are the logical other speeds, decide they want to go early, the 1 can sit and kind of sit in that perfect stalking position on the inside. But if nobody wants to take that lead, the 1 can certainly do it. So I really like the 1, Dr. Shane. That's my $20 win wager. The horse I put in second is the 5. Just really a consistent runner at this level. Last time out, got second, ran pretty well. I'm a little afraid he might get a little too far back. I'm a little worried about that, but I love that Jose Ortiz jumps aboard for the 2nd straight race. So I thought the 5 had a shot too, but I'll let you talk about a couple others there. Those were my top 2, the 1 and the 5.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the 1. I think Dr. Shane, again, I have been harping on that point. You didn't get the value that I thought you could have gotten, because at 8-5, that's what Dr. Shane went off at. It was a little disappointing to see him give up the lead. I will admit that. But again, that is an angle you're playing. And one of the things that we don't talk about all the time is Danny Gargan and how good of a quality he brings to Gulfstream. He's winning at 40% at the time that this was downloaded. These PPs were downloaded. And he is a New York guy through and through. And he came to Gulfstream with a purpose. And I would say, outside of Todd Pletcher, who's not even winning at 40%, Danny Gargan is the trainer to keep an eye on. And he's consistently, he was at winning over 50%. That just wasn't sustainable. That was something Christophe Clement was doing in Saratoga over the summer. We were like, this just isn't sustainable. But Danny Gargan, I guarantee, will finish at this meet somewhere in the 25 to 30%. I could almost guarantee that, because he won't win at 40% consistently. It's really tough to do that. But his runners just seem to come here and run really, really well. I don't disagree with the 5 Farley. I just thought that I didn't want a single in this spot. I easily could have and gone a little bit deeper other places. I did think the 2 Pagliacci was a horse to keep an eye on. I don't like the fact that he lacked a closing bid, I'll be honest, but this was the first time that he went this distance and struggled. The other time he did that, he actually won. That was a long, long time ago, and it wasn't in the group of 6. I understand that I always like to harp on. But I think he was going 5, 6, 5.5 at Saratoga, 5. I think this was a massive stretch out. I think he'll do better this time when he gets that area to kind of go over for the second time. Edgar's Eyes is a little bit different. We're not going to see Junior Alvarado. That was a little surprising because Junior Alvarado has been riding, really, really well. I would have loved to see him hop back on, but Steve Classeris knows what he's doing. He's winning at 20%, 7 for 35. with four third place finishes, so 11 for 35 in terms of finishing in the money. I expect a little bit better out of this horse. He is 7 years old. Dr. Shane's 8 years old. You have a lot of older geldings in this spot, or horses in this spot, I should say. So I do expect a little bit more value, and I don't think the 2 is that much worse than the 5. What did you think of the 2 Pagliacci compared to the 5 Farley, or 6-1 compared to 7-2?
Yeah, I didn't like the 2 very well. I see Dennis is going to play the 2. You're using the 2. This was not a horse I put in the top 4 here. I don't know. I just thought there were some other ones that were a little more intriguing. Coming out of that same race, how about the 4 who was third in the race that had Dr. Shane and the 2 horses that we're talking about there. So I thought the 4 made a little bit of sense. I also kind of thought if you're going to play a long shot, the 9 was kind of interesting because he's getting back to, that 7.5 furlongs to me is a mile. So I'm going to compare him to mile races. Some of his better races have kind of been at a mile. So I kind of like the cutback. And if there's a pace meltdown, I think this horse can close. But I wasn't real bullish. But if you want to get wild, I think the 9 has an upsetting shot. Listen, you kind of had a horse that we'll talk about later in the recap that surprised me yesterday that ran really well, and maybe the 2 fits that bill again. But no, I wasn't in love with the 2 here, and I'm really particularly shocked that you're using 2 horses and it's the 1 and the 2. That's a bold move in my opinion.
Well, we're all about bold moves here on the Rocket Hour. No, in all seriousness, I do agree. The 9 is the one that I'm worried about, and this is the reason why. The main competitors that we used or we talked about, the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 5 are all coming out of 16,000 claimers that haven't won a race in 6 months. We've talked about this before, that conditioned claimers are a lot easier than open claimers. That's what we use here. That's a terminology we use, open claimers, where there's less conditions and things like that. So this is for runners that haven't won since July 28th of 2020. That makes sense. That's 6 months ago. The 9 is coming out of an open 16,000 claimer. So one can make the argument that race is going to be tougher, and I would probably agree. Anything that's 16,000 that's going to be open is going to be better. I just don't know what that race really comprised of at 61-1 for him to finish by less than 2 lengths. I'll be honest, I don't remember that race. I didn't look at that race. And when I saw the odds, I was like, that must have been a weak field, because the time before that, at just under 15-1, he finished 9th and he beat 3 horses. So I agree that if we're talking about the open condition to the closed, what I like to call closed condition, that's something that makes sense. And I do like Leparoux getting back aboard. I just don't know if he's going to be good enough. I also think that the post position with the starting gate is an issue, because they're going to start really, really quick into the first turn. If you're the 9, say, Aaron, I'll throw it to you real quick. If you were to bet the 9, does that post position concern you just because of where the starting gate is?
It does somewhat, but I think this horse is just going to take back. If they try to ride the horse and get mid-pack, you're probably going to get hung. But I really think they'll just take him back to the back of the pack and to try to make one run. If he had a little bit different running style, I would be a little more worried, because you're right, that first turn comes up fairly quick. And that's another big, positive for Dr. Shane, is he doesn't have to worry about anything like that. Drawn from the rail and you got inside speed, or you got early speed, well, you either get the lead or you sit kind of the pocket trip, which is kind of what you want in a turf race, especially at Gulfstream. So, yeah, no, but the post really doesn't worry about the 9. His talent level, that's all that really worries me about the 9. I don't know if he's quite good enough, but there are enough positive signs to think, well, if he's 10-1 at post time and you want to take a shot, he's not a dumb one to take a shot with.
Yeah, and I completely agree there. I've seen worse 10-1 shots before. Dennis even said it doesn't. I assume he means talking about the post position when we were talking about the concern. It doesn't concern him because he dropped so far back. This is probably one of those cases. If you're Julien Leparoux, you almost let them break ahead of you and just dive as far down to the rail as possible to save that ground. To Aaron's point, there's no point trying to get this horse mid-pack, because you will probably get hung. Even though he could probably be a little bit more forwardly placed if you look at some of those races earlier over the summer at Gulfstream or Kentucky Downs. He was about mid-pack, so he can, but I think it's probably better if he just gets to the rail. Let's move on to the 8th race. This is starter allowance for 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 mile on the dirt. I'll start here, and I'll be the first to admit I had no idea who to go with. I couldn't make a meal of this field. The 2 horses that I'm using, I could make the case that they even look halfway decent. I'm going to just talk about my top choice, and then I'll kind of let you get into it. I did use Storm Runner for the mere fact that if you look at the race against Jesus's team, and Jesus's team was just in the Pegasus, if you listen to me rant on about that over the past weekend, if he runs anything similar to that race on December 5th in the Claiming Crown Jewel, he's going to win here. My problem with him is that I don't know if this becomes a merry-go-round race. Now, I'm not saying a problem because I think he's extremely talented. But for example, what if the 2 Well-Defined gets the lead and is just able to slow it down? Because this is a very, very compact field. Storm Runner comes out of races in the group of 6. The fields were 12, 11, 9, 8, 10, and 8. Will he get a quick enough pace where he can overtake, or will a horse like Well-Defined just go gate to wire, or maybe someone else go gate to wire? How did you kind of look at this race? Because I didn't feel comfortable singling Storm Runner. I thought this was a really quality field.
Well, first of all, let me address this one real quick. Why is the 10th race try have different picks than the 10th race in the pick 4? It's because 2 people are on this show, and one person, Ricky, has done the pick 4, and the other person, myself, does the exact try.
I didn't even notice that comment, but yeah.
That's it's because that's the format of the show. So, all right. So to go on to the 8th race, listen, I'm really confident in the number 5 Storm Runner. And I know Dennis, let's see if I can find his comment. He's like, damn, Aaron has confidence in the next race. What? Yeah, I do, Dennis. I listen, and it's not very often I'm confident in a Dale Romans horse. But if this horse runs back to that last race against Jesus's team, I think they're running for second. And Ricky, it's kind of funny how 2 people that know how to handicap look at pace and pick horses for the same reason, but they're different horses. I kind of think the 5 will go out and put some pressure on that 2. And I think if Well-Defined gets pressured and Storm Runner has enough speed, and I believe that he does, to kind of look that horse in the eye, or at least keep that horse, hey, there's one behind me. I think Storm Runner is just a classier and a little bit better, more talented horse than Well-Defined. And I'm with you, though, that past those 2, I don't see anybody else going with them. So if the 5 can kind of get up and pressure that 2, take over at the top of the stretch, I don't see a lot of closers in this race that'll come get them. I think the one caveat to that situation, if it turns into a duel, then all of a sudden the closers are going to have a shot for sure. But I kind of think the 5 just kind of stocks, puts a little pressure on Well-Defined, and takes over. So $20 to win on the 5 Storm Runner for me. I'm pretty confident in it. I will talk about a couple of the others I use. You mentioned the 2, won't say much about him. I think the 6 makes a ton of sense here. So if you're like, yeah, this guy's crazy, I'm not confident in this 5. I think the 6 is a horse to really use here as well. I don't particularly love the cutback to a mile. I think the horse is best at a mile and 16th, but it's not a huge difference. That's, and again, I don't think the horse has the early speed that the 2 and the 5 have, but I do think he can sit in that 3rd spot and be the first horse to pounce. And then obviously the big thing, Jose Ortiz gets aboard today. I think that's obviously a good sign. So the 6 is definitely my next up. And I thought hard about a 5-6 exacta here, but in the end, I thought the 5 would get the jump on the 6. So that's why I ultimately landed on the 5 as a win wager.
I don't disagree that the 5 is the best horse, and if the 5 runs his best race, he's going to win. This reminds me a lot of the Inside Information Stakes, which was just run on Saturday.
Yep.
Who did we see challenge each other? The 2, Cinnabunny, and the 4, This My Time. Who did we see sit off the pace? That was Pacific Gale. I could see this race playing exactly like that. So, to your point, that if the 2 goes out there and the 5 is going to look that horse eye to eye, that might not be bad for a horse like Fort Peck or Queen Anne, who I think are going to sit off. Now, if that's the case, then the 3 like Gloria, Florida, and Like You can also win. So this is one of the more difficult races because I don't know if it's going to break down pace-wise, and if it does, then I don't want anything to do with the 2 or 5. If it's moderately paced, then I want everything to do with the 2 or 5, and I don't need the 1 or 6. And that's who I use, the 1, 2, 5, 6. This, I'll be honest, this is one of the more interesting / tough races to call because I have no idea how the pace is going to set up. A lot of times, and Aaron, I'll throw it to you real quick here on this point, we see a lot of horses with cheap speed, and what they'll do is they'll go out, and we want the horses that are going to be 3 through 6 because it's almost like horses 1 through 2. If they go battle each other, we know they're not going to win and they're going to fall down. If the 2 and 5 go battle each other, they're still good enough to hold on. And so this is one of those situations where, like, do we put stock into that and say they're just better? Or are we going to fade them? I kind of did a little mix of both and said I'm going to fade them a little bit, but I'm going to also include them. I do agree with your assessment, though. If you think the 5 is that much better, it's one of those situations like it could be like a Knicks Go where he just goes out and no matter what the pace is, he's going to win in this spot. And I'm assuming that's kind of the way you're thinking. Or even if he's not on the lead, he's just going to be just right there, right off Well-Defined's hip and say, I'm going to overtake you no matter what. I assume that was kind of your thinking when you were breaking this down.
Yeah, definitely it was. I just think class is gonna play a factor here. I just think that race he was in last time out, he was just facing a much better horse. Think if Jesus's team was in this race, like he'd be 3 to 5. Like this is a field. It's good, but it's not great. Like every horse, like Well-Defined and Gloria to Florida and Fort Peck and even Storm Runner. They're not bad horses, but they're not great either. So I'm looking for that one that has past performances where it's like, yeah, he's beaten some better runners than some of these other ones, and that's what I saw with Storm Runner. Yeah, I think you're right about the fact that it does have that feeling of if you're sitting in third, it's all going to come down to the 2 and the 5 and what they do, and you might get the perfect setup if you're the 6 with Fort Peck. Dennis said something right here. Y'all don't think the 4 goes with the 2? No, I don't. I don't see the 4 being on the lead here. I think that horse will be outran early, so I'm not really worried about the 4 as far as the pace of the race goes. This is one of those races. It's a 6-horse field, and for your standpoint, and probably what I would do as well in the spot, you do have to go deep. And sometimes people will be like, well, there's 6 horses and you're playing 4 of them. You can't, what's the matter with you? It's like, sometimes these are the toughest ones to figure out, these compact fields, because they're oddly run races a lot of times, right? And I know you've talked about this a lot with New York turf racing when they're smaller fields. Sometimes these are the ones that have the oddest setups and they can really be tricky. So don't think, oh, it's a 6-horse field, I automatically have to go short if you're playing multi-races. That's really not the case. Sometimes these can be harder than those 12-horse fields.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like we've talked about all the maiden claiming race at the end yesterday was really, really tough, and that was a 12-horse field. But this one is like, if you told me the 4 was going to win, I wouldn't. I would make thousands of arguments as to why he would win. Like I can't sit here and disagree with any of them. But to Dennis's point, the 4, I don't know what indication I would say the 4 is going to go to the lead because, well, he faced Well-Defined in Gloria, Florida last time and didn't go to the lead. So I'm not sure he's going to do that here. And if I'm Miguel Vasquez and I'm Ron Spatz, I don't want him on the lead because this horse, he is not as good as Well-Defined and Storm Runner. So if he is going to be on the lead, more likely than not, he's going to burn out. If I had to pick one of the 3 to burn out, it would be him. So I would, if I owned the horse or if I'm betting on the horse, I don't want him on the lead. I think you could get that Pacific Gale trip, maybe sit 4th or 5th, but it's going to be a compact 4th or 5th. So that's probably a better situation. If you're 5th by 2 lengths versus on the lead by half a length, I think that's where you want to be in this spot. Let's move on to the 9th race, starter allowance for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, going 5 furlongs on the turf. If you've listened to me ramble on this show, these are my favorite races. I love the 5 furlongs. especially here at Gulfstream, it's one of those situations where anyone can win. It's all about the positioning. I'll throw it to you. As we're scrolling the ticket at the bottom, there's no way you picked a single here, right? There's no way you went with a win ticket. This is way too difficult for me.
Yeah, this is another one. It's a very tough race, and I just decided to kind of take a swing with a couple of horses that I liked. Here's the deal: when you get into these 7-horse fields, and we talked about it the last race with 6 horses, now you're in a 7-horse field, and once again, it's a very tricky spot. And for my purposes of playing, when you got a 6-horse field and a 7-horse field, it's really hard to play a trifecta, right? Because you're really having to dig to kind of find that value. And so this was tricky, just like the last one. My top choice, though, is going to be the favorite. I really like the 4 here. And, last time out ran really well, pretty much at this level, at this distance. 2 races back at Monmouth, pretty much again at this distance, a winner. 3 races back, it was a long time ago, January of last year, a winner at this distance. 4 races back, a winner. So you see a pattern here. This horse likes to win. And so in a race, it's like, damn, this is wide open. You look at speed figures, they're very similar. That's kind of the indicator to me, like this horse has won 5 in a row. So I'm going to go right back and use this horse again. And I feel like, hell, if anything, what I'm playing is a $5 exacta box 4 and 7. The 4 is going to be around. The 4's shot of hitting first or second is pretty good. So I thought that was a good horse to use. I also like the 7, like I just mentioned. First time out on the turf for a while, last time out, and won. And again, won at this distance, kind of at this level. A big thing, Paco Lopez rode the 4 last time and rode the 7 last time. He chooses the 4, so that was my identifier of, well, the 4 might be a little better than the 7, but as we talk on the show, you're getting Tyler Gaffalione aboard the 7. That's not so bad either. So for me, it kind of came down to I could go a ton of different ways and try to get creative, or yeah, these horses might just be the 2 best. Let's do a $5 exacta box with the 4 and 7 here. I think it'll still pay pretty well. And I think the 7 can upset the 4, and that would even be a better payout. So that's kind of where I landed.
So when I was drawing this race out, we talked about this yesterday. What I like to do is draw the race out, especially these types of sprints. When you have those 1.5 miles for like those 12 furlong races or even 11, like I don't think it's as important, to be honest, because I think the talent wears down the rest of the field. But in this spot, this isn't all about talent. To me, this is a spot of where are you when they break for the gate. In that first half a furlong to full furlong, where are you? So I put the 7 on top. I said Kiffel's got to win on top. That's the way she likes to run. That's where the last time out she was 3x2 and grinded out the field. 3 starts back at Churchill Downs, was on top going gate to wire. At the claiming level, like here at Gulfstream on April 5th, gate to wire. So I think that's where she needs to go. I actually think the 4 Paint Them Blues Away is going to sit off of her. So I don't know if that's kind of the way you saw it, but I do like the 4 on top. But I think the 4 is just going to let the 7 kind of go out there, do her thing, and just wear her down. Because I agree, if you look at the 4, if you want to bet against a horse who hasn't lost since September 15th of 2019, well, good luck to you. That you're going to get 7-5, maybe 8-5 if you're lucky. I do want to throw in the 3, Sanity. And the reason I've always talked about this. Insanity is seeing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, Sanity, I guess I'm a little insane here. Sanity lost to Paint Them Blues Away twice in her last 3 races. Okay, what does that mean? She probably won't get the job done here. But the difference here is Paint Them Blues Away was able to go pretty much gate to wire. Mm-hmm. I don't think she'll be able to do that. And if there is a hookup with Kiffel, Sanity is the horse, or the mare, I should say, the mare that I think can overtake them if it melts down. That's why I'm going to use her here. If Kiffel's not in this spot, then I'm singling Paint Them Blues Away. But because Kiffel is in this spot, now I feel like I'm forced to go 3 deep for the mere fact that I think this thing can break down. It's going to be probably a little bit quicker because these 2 need to kind of be on top. That was my thinking with the 3, 4, 7. I could see people singling the 4, Paint Them Blues Away, but Kiffel's really, really strong too. To the point on Tyler Gaffalione, Tyler was aboard all those times in Kentucky. So I don't know necessarily if it's a Paco Lopez thing. just him picking. Maybe it is, maybe it wasn't. But I don't honestly remember what Tyler was aboard when Paco picked up the mount last time out. So, like you said, there's no downside to getting Tyler back in this spot.
Yeah, that's correct. And listen, you used 3, 4, 7. Those were my top 3. The Sports Fan USA said I think it's between 3, 4, 5, 7. Whoever gets the rail. The 5 was my 4th choice. And again, it's the same thing over and over again. Hey, got speed, can get to the lead. Turf at Gulfstream, you need to be close. All that kind of thing. And I agree with his thoughts. The reason why I put the 5 in 3rd. Been beaten by a lot of these horses, especially 2 back, just really wasn't real. I mean, 3 links, beating 3 links, but still, it's still 3 links and what against Painted Blues, Lay, Insanity. So hard to use that 5 as far as on top. The one horse that I think is interesting that we haven't talked about is the number 1 Cat's Astray. I'm pretty sure this horse is cheap speed. So I don't think this horse was really a win candidate, but at the same time, this horse can screw some things up, right? Because you talk about whoever's going to find the rail. Well, the 1 has it, and the 1 should go. I don't think our horses are going to mess with this horse early because they're going to. I mean, they can see the past performances just like us and think, well, horse is kind of cheap speed in this spot. But I don't know. I thought this was a tricky horse. What did you think about Cat's Astray?
So I have 2 points. The race 2 back was the Claiming Crown, claim of dash. It was one of those restricted days when they talked about on Claiming Crown Day. Mm-hmm. But we talked about Jakarta yesterday. Jakarta is just one of the best turf mares or fillies around. So especially down at Florida. So I don't think that's anything to necessarily put against her. The race last time out was against starter 16,000 level, which is slightly below this. But what I will say, I did put Cat's Astray 4th. I think you said you put the 5 Swirling Candy 4th. I put Cat's Astray 4th. The reason I couldn't use her was for the mere fact that Juan Arias is 0 for 8. I'm not including any horse that's 0 for 8. I'm just not. I mean, any trainer, that's 0 for 8. Even a 2nd or a 3rd might push me over the line, but 0 for 8, again, if he wants to go from not finishing in the money to winning in this spot, which we would both agree that their horses that are better, then all right, then you got it. I guess you can make the argument for Luis Saez is going to get the mount now, but I don't know. I'm pretty hard-pressed. I do agree this is cheap speed to me. He tends to fade. He has plenty of Gulfstream success, 6 of 14 in the money, 2 wins, but I agree. I think this is cheap speed on paper.
Yeah, but I think his presence is just enough to kind of just be like, gosh, this is a little scary. So yeah, and you're right. The Luis Saez thing, sometimes I play too much of a factor into that, and that could be the deal now. But like same as the 8th race, right? It's a short field of only 7, but man, you could go a ton of different ways. It's going to be really competitive.
And one of the things that I do want to note, to your point, when the longer the race, the less worried about cheap speed you are, because I think they tend to quit. When it's 5 furlongs and it's pretty much an all-out sprint, you just never know. So that's why I think the 1's even scarier. If this was 7 furlongs or a mile, obviously it's not a sprint, but we're just not as concerned. I think the 5 furlongs, it's kind of like you're out of the gate, and all of these horses, if they get the lead, could go gate to wire if things go their way. Yeah. Let's move on to the final race, claiming 16,000 for 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 miles, 8.5 furlongs. That is 2 turns on the turf. I'll start here. I thought this was the most wide open race. I did use 4 horses. I used 3, the 7, the 8, and the 10. But I'm going to talk about a long shot. I'm going to talk about a 12-1 Rusty Arnold horse. And that's the 3, Playing Hooky. I think this horse just really, really, really wants to go longer. If you take his 7.5 furlong races out of it, especially recently, I don't think they're that bad. So when he came back, this was his first race since 2019. Okay, I don't know how much stock I can put into that. I really don't, from the mere fact that was, a 14-month layoff, 13.5-month layoff. Like, that's incredible. The fact that this horse took any money at all, I think, is incredible. That was claiming 16th for non-winners of 1 in the last 6 months. He's going to come back into the same exact spot, and now this is second off the layoff. This is a horse, excuse me for not scrolling down on the entries. I'm going to do that now. I just thought this was a horse that I had to include, and I didn't see anyone that stood off, that stood out to me. The 2, mind you, I do want to mention the 2 didn't do it if scratch. That's the only scratch in the sequence. Did you like the 3 at all, or am I just trying to make a meal of nothing here?
Yeah, I did not like the 3. I did not put the 3 in the top 4. So yeah, I didn't. But hey, we do have a couple similar ones. I'll piggyback on that. My top pick is one you did not use, and that is the 4. Another. I kind of like this horse, kind of for the same reasons. I think 1 mile and 16th is really where the horse needs to be. And I would draw a line through the race last time out. The horse just kind of had some trouble. It just was not a great trip. And was 9-1 in that spot, still ran hard, closed up, got 6, but only beaten a length and 3/4. So Irad Ortiz back aboard again today. I think that's a good sign. And I'm just thinking, hey, a little bit better start, get this horse in a little bit better position early, and maybe he's one that can run down what is a pretty suspect group, like you said. I also liked the number 10 Battle of Blenheim, and it's kind of the same Blenheim and kind of the same thing. Really, really consistent horse. Has been at tougher levels and has competed pretty well. Last couple of races, I will agree or give you, were pretty disappointing at this level. But this race, it's just not good, right? So there's a lot of horses in here that just haven't won in a long time. So you're really just trying to find some kind of positive. And I think the 10 has enough of those positives. I think the 10 also can be forwardly placed in this race where he kind of hasn't been lately. But I think in this race, I don't see a lot of their speed. So I think the 10 can kind of get on the leader close and take them all the way around. I'll just quickly go through the other 2 that I used. By the way, 50 cent trifecta box, 4, 6, 7, and 10 was the play. Wide open race. Obviously, I think this is the right call for my style. Let's look at the 7. Really lukewarm favorite here. But for my style of betting for this race with the try, I do think you have to use him. Class dropper, that's the biggest thing for me. These starter races at Gulfstream, and now you go to a claimer, that's a pretty big drop. Also, the horse has been running long, now gets a cutback. I kind of like that. This horse has 1 mile and 16th races on his past performances that aren't horrible. Won over this track last April, where an allowance going this distance, finished 3rd, only beaten 3 1/4. So I don't know. I think this horse is just a logical use. I get, you look at the 7 and you go, well, I'm not really excited about him. But the class drop is a big thing here. And I think that can't be overstated. And then I went with the 3, or I'm sorry, not the 3. Let's see, the 6 as my 4th choice. This is a horse that getting back to the turf, I think, helped last time out. He definitely looked kind of like his old self again. 27-1. It was a Florida bred allowance going 1 mile on the turf. Got beat by only 3 1/4 length. Finished 6th, but was competitive. I think now 1 mile and 16th, this is kind of what he likes to do. I think he needs a little bit of the stretch out. Obviously, the drop in class is huge. I thought 12-1 was too big of a price on the 6. So I used the 6 as my 4th choice.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We talked about that Shamrocket race a lot with my point exactly. So I agree there. We have a lot of comments to go through. Before we do, I just want to talk about the 8 24/7. I just think he's one of those consistent ones. I don't love him. I actually like the 7 a lot more. I like the 10 a lot more. So I use the 3, the 7, the 8, and the 10. I just think the 8 is kind of consistent. I do think as he returns to Gulfstream, I think he'll be a little bit better. He seems to be running a little bit better of races. So I just wanted to include that. I don't love him. I really do like the 3 at a price. I think Second Star will be good. There, let's talk about a few of the comments. I might be dead wrong with a stab. I think this was for this race that we're going to see. The 5 got Tyler G last time, and then he's dead. But if he was put off for a better price, a different ride, then he's interesting. I'll be honest. If you like the 10 or the 4, which Aaron does, I'm not sure how you really like this 5, to be honest, because it was 11th by 11, saved ground and faded. I don't mind faded if you're 4 or 5 wide, because it's really tough to do that. If you're saving ground and you're running the least amount of ground than everyone else, I don't want to see if the word faded. Is there anything you want to add to that comment?
No, I don't like the 5 at all. So we can move on from that one.
Okay, let's go to this one. The 2 and 2 and 3 back. I think the horse is interesting, and also last time out, 3-1 ran like a dog. But is this the wedding? So he's talking. Is it? It's the same horse.
Same horse. So no, we don't like that.
Okay, we don't have to talk about that. Okay, I do want to talk about this though. There were 2 comments. I'm going to show this comment first. Robbie Alvarado, they're referring to winless at the meet, makes me want to leave the 7 off, but the cut back in class. And then Dennis goes, great jock on the 7. I'll let you touch on Robbie Alvarado. Because Robbie is 0 for 21 and Patrick B. and Cone hasn't seemed to hit much, is that a cause for concern for you?
This is a really good race to bust a slump. 11 horses on the turf, $16,000 claimer at Gulfstream, and they're all terrible. So yeah, this is a really good race to bust a slump in. Listen, a lot of people like to hate on guys that aren't winning, at Gulfstream or this or that. Listen, when you're Robbie Alvarado, when you're Chris Landeros was a whipping boy last year, it's really hard to win down here. You've got the Ortiz brothers, you've got Saez, you've got Jaramillo, you got Paco Lopez, you got Joe Bravo. It's really not because these jockeys are terrible that they lose and they go into slumps. They lose because they just don't have the horses. I bet if you looked up Robbie Alvarado's, what did you say? He had 21 races here at Gulfstream.
Yeah.
I bet he's been double-digit odds in 20 of those.
That would be a good stat to look up. If anyone can find that information or has something to add, that would be great. Dennis says, I think Robbie has won 1 race since November. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. What I will say is, to Aaron's point, even though he probably is double-digit odds, we'll go through some of the numbers real quick in terms of the other riders, and I'll start with Hector Berrios. And I'm not even going to say what they did, just the amount of rides that they've had. Hector Berrios 79, Luis Saez 331, Irad Ortiz 211, Panici 134, Alvarado 132, Robbie Alvarado 21, Miguel Vasquez 206, Carlos Lugo, who's 0 for 57, so he has 57, Tyler G 248, Paco Lopez 290. How are you supposed to get any quality stock when, for example, Tyler Gaffleone has 200, almost 50 mounts, and Paco is approaching 300? I don't know. You tell me. At the end of the day, the rider's only as good as the horse he's on top of, male, female, older, younger. If he's got the 5th or 6th best horse in every race, how is he supposed to win? If you take a look at Robbie when he's riding in Kentucky, he's not bad. So I just think this is one of those situations. You know what this is similar to? Raylu Gutierrez. When he rides in Naira, he's doing fantastic. Dan, I think he's where now? Is he
in Houston?
In Houston, yep. He's doing fantastic because he goes from the best of the best with the Ortiz brothers, and now he's riding well at a lesser circuit. I think Robbie Alvarado gave it a shot. Maybe he could have gone somewhere else, but he gave it a shot, and it's not working out for him. But I do think, to your point, this is a slump buster. I think him and B and Cone could definitely team up and win this spot. I don't know. Jared's favorite jockey name is Berrios Hector. Please say it correctly.
Yeah.
I've never heard him say that before, but from now on, I will call him Berrios Hector.
Yeah. I liked this comment right here. Dwayne Lucas always said, "Give me the worst jockey on the best horse," than vice versa. Absolutely, I agree. And guys, I'll leave that up for just a second. And guys, here's the deal: if Robbie was at Turfway right now, he'd be winning at 15 to 20%. He's not. Robbie Alvarado is not going to get good mounts at Gulfstream. Here, he's kind of lucked into one. Am I saying this guy is gonna win by 10 today? No, this is a shitty race. I think somebody else said they could make a case for 7 horses. Absolutely, but he makes sense here. And if you don't want to play the 7 because hey, he's a short price, hey, he got beat a few times really badly, that's fine. But I don't think Robbie Alvarado is the reason why you're off the horse. I don't really look at that and say, well, that's terrible that he's on. And one other point, Robbie Alvarado's absolutely schooled Johnny Velasquez in the Preakness Stakes. Okay. So these jockeys, they, it's not a foregone conclusion that, okay, Velasquez is better than Alvarado. His percentages are better, so I'm going to get a better ride. That's not always the case. Over the long run, sure, but that's not always the case. These guys are capable of jumping up and riding well. My favorite Dwayne Lucas quote, I kept this up here for this reason. They had an interview with him like a year ago. And they said, Dwayne, your percentage is dropping. You're only winning at 10% now. And he goes, well, hey, winning at 10% when you've got 2% horses is pretty damn good. He said, give me 20% horses and I can win at 20%. And it's still to the same point. A trainer and a jockey, they're only as good as the stock they have, whether it's in their barn for a trainer or whether they're mounts for a jockey. So in the end, the horses are the ones that are winning these races 99% of the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's one of those points where, like I said earlier, you could only ride the horse that's underneath you. So if you have the 5th or 6th best horse, well, you're probably going to finish 5th or 6th. If you finish 3rd with the 6th most talented horse, it was a great race. So I don't necessarily go by that. And again, you only have 21 mounts when everyone else is like over 100 or 150. So those are just a few points to tack on there. Let's move on to yesterday. Well, I shouldn't say let's move on. Let's recap yesterday's card because it's one of those things that I read it right. The race we were all on top of, I read it right. We'll start with, this is race 1. We're going to start with race 7. This was the race, that I kind of went deeper in. I didn't really trust anyone in this field. There we go, race 7. Here we go. It took a while, but we got there. Yeah. I was really all over this race. I was scared that the one Lavi was coming on. That was a horse that you kind of talked about, but we thought this was a big step up. I did like the 6 Free to Fly. That was a horse I had for 3rd. I was honestly happy to just survive this one. What did you kind of think? My top choice, the Lanaga, was okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't bad. Got a decent price at 4 to 1. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I thought we were. Listen, I played a $5 exacta box 4-9, and that was awful. So I think the betting on my part was bad, but the handicapping actually was pretty decent. My 3rd and 4th choices finished, 1st and 2nd, and then a horse you talked about a ton gets up there for 3rd. So if you kind of combined our picks yesterday on the show, you could have hit this try pretty easily, and there really wasn't ever any doubt those 3 were going to be the first 3 finishers. Just huge disappointment for I'm a Daredevil. Didn't run very well at all. And then, boy, Midtown Rose, holy hell. That horse just didn't show up. But, yeah, I felt like really poor betting from my standpoint. My handicapping, I was around it, and certainly you were as well. You moved on.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was just happy to move on. I really did like the 8 at 8 to 1. Unfortunately, I didn't get 8 to 1. I was considering just playing a win bet, a $10 win bet on the 8 Dahlonega if I was able to get anything 6. I think I said yesterday 6 to 1 or above. I didn't even get 4 to 1, so I did not play a win bet. Real quick, Dennis said 15% at Turfway when he's only run 2 races since the Preakness now. I guess he's still not interested. Let's move on. I have nothing else to add because I think we got that one right. Let's move on to the race that I thought really, really, really just put me down in the dumps yesterday. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. So I'll let you go first. This was starter optional claiming 16,000 going a mile on the dirt. I know none of us had, both of us, or I don't know anyone who did, had the horse Mead. That horse looked like crap on paper.
This was really one of the more frustrating races I've watched in maybe the last month, I would even say. This is why this game is really, really tough. And this is not me bragging on you and I, because we both lost. This was my biggest opinion. We lost. But we handicapped Brasstown perfectly. You could not have asked for Brasstown to be getting a better trip. You could not have asked for Brasstown to be looking like more of a winner, even, I would say. This horse is 4 lengths ahead. He's the lone speed in the freaking race. Turns for home, and it's like he hasn't separated, but they also haven't asked this horse to run at all, so he's got plenty left, right? Wrong. Freaking just throws in the anchor. This was one of the worst stop jobs I've ever seen for a horse that gets a perfect ass trip like this. Brasstown is dead to me. That was a horrible performance. I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, okay, this was my $20 win wager. Boom, this is cashed. Easy game. Totally drops anchor. I have nothing more I can really say. This was just a piss poor performance, and this is just an example of a horse that just did not bring it that day.
This is one of those what I call them a 30-minute. And what that means in my book is as I see him starting to break away, I clock it and I say I have 30 minutes until the next race. I don't have to watch the end of it. I can go to the bathroom. I can go get something to eat. I can do something, anything productive, but I call it a 30-minute. That's what I say. When I tell my buddies we're watching and I say, oh, he's gone. Here's a 30-minute. So that's like we could tell ourselves we got 30 minutes now. We don't even have to watch the end of it. Is this horse serious? You're up by 4 lengths. And not only are you up 4 lengths and you're 20-1, you're up 4 lengths and you're 4-5. Okay. So I'm sitting here saying, you know what? Do I have a shot with anyone else? And I said, oh yeah, I have the 3. Please sit down. Well, boy, was I sitting down when I saw the 3 get rolling. At first, I was like, oh, I got a 30-minute. Then I hear Pete Aiello in the background pretty much give the indication, whoa, we've got a race on our hand. So at this point, the 3, please sit down, hasn't moved a lick. But I do see the 9 Mead move. So I'm like, all right, here we go. Mead's going to just kind of win this race, and I'm going to be pissed. But then I see the 3 storming from out of nowhere. I said yesterday that if this race breaks down, the 3 is the one that I want. The problem is the 9 got the jump on the 3. Please sit down at 12-1 was fantastic. That was an unbelievable race. I was shocked I was even able to get that. That horse actually floated up. Just couldn't get the job done. He was just too far back, and had he been given, I don't know, maybe another 50 yards or so, I think he would have won. He was storming home, and you could see at the quarter pole, he was 5x5. At the half, 5x5. And then he just consistently made ground up in the stretch. When he finished only second by a head, he just really ran out of time. I really had that race won, I thought, with the 3. That would have been a really, really nice price to get 12-1 home. Now we're talking we could potentially be in that 600-700 pick 4 range potentially, but that's just the way it goes, I guess. I'm happy I read it right. I thought the 1, like I said, was a 30-minute. But I think we're kind of done on Brasstown.
Well, I want to address the loose horse messed it up and no guts. Definitely no guts. And then Dennis kind of said the same thing about the 8. So what happened if you didn't see the race? The 8 right out of the gate loses the jockey, stumbles, the rider falls off, and then the 8, like most loose horses do, they just run to the front. And yeah, okay. For a brief second, I thought, this is bad, because I think the 8 is the 1 is gonna engage with this 8 who's out of the race. But I kind of think that ended pretty quickly. Like, I don't really think he was chasing for that long. And, you look back at the last time he went wire to wire, the fractions yesterday were slower. He just didn't have any excuse. He just threw in the towel. So Yeah, just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. To Aaron's point, um, they're about the same or a little bit slower. So
Mhm.
I don't know how much he was chasing. And we didn't have that. I didn't come on with that opinion, or neither did you at the beginning, because we didn't think it had that much of an effect. And when you're that much better, and Edgar Zayas knew he had the best horse, you just got to do a better job of rating. Now, I'm not going to sit here and accuse Edgar of not rating, because I think he did for the most part. The first quarter was 23-2. I mean, it's not that entirely fast, maybe a little bit quicker than we would like to see it, but it wasn't like a 22-4 where it was like, all right, this horse is going to die. You just kind of threw in the anchor, kind of like Cinnabunny did, and this my time in the inside information, but it is what it is. Let's move on to the 9th race. Again, we were able to get this one right, and I'll let you talk on this one first. I wasn't as strong on the 7, Kasim. I'm not sure you were. He was really, really impressive yesterday.
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. This was one where, again, I thought, okay, I've drawn it up right on paper that the 7 is getting the trip that that we thought that this horse would get, and then pounced and won like the horse should have. So yeah, I was very happy. $10 win wager here for me. Boy, easy to say now. I wish it was 20, but I really thought that the Brasstown would be easy, and then we could just kind of use our winnings on Brasstown and roll it right in to Chasm. And it didn't work that way, but still, it was nice to get this one home. And like you said, there's really not a whole lot to say. The horse, ran exactly how we thought or we drew it up, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I'll be honest. There were some prices underneath. I think Mike Somich yesterday talked about the 8 Ensign Parker. I was a little afraid of the 8 coming down the stretch, I'll be honest. But again, it just looks like one of those horses where he's just not good enough. He did run a really, really good race, though. I'd like to see him back at the 25,000 level. I'll say that I'll give my credit for that one, but I will say this. A trainer in Carlos Perez, but when I printed this out, he was winning at 0%. If I know you're Todd Pletcher and you're at 0%, that's a difference between if you're Todd Pletcher at 0% and Carlos Perez at 0%. Because one of the things that I always stick to, it's like a batting average. If at the end of the meet, your average, your percentages will be where you normally are, more than likely. Maybe some years you'll do a little bit better than other. Like, for example, Orlando Noda had a great Saratoga meet. Fantastic. But then he comes to Aqueduct and Belmont, it's not as good because over time, he's not a 25 whatever percent trainer. It's just not what he is. Same thing with Christophe Clement. He was winning in like the 40%. No one wins at that percent. Yep. So it comes down. Carlos Perez, I'm just not going to put a horse on top who is a win candidate, who I actually like this horse at 0%. I'll wait till a guy like that beats me. That's just the way I am. We had a horse today that we were talking about. I forgot who it was. If you're going to be that one for whatever, then I'll let you do that. I'm not wasting a bullet on that horse. Are you kind of in the same boat, or are you kind of willing to forgive that?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think – I hate knocking guys, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. And the thing about it is, it's like, why was this horse not on the turf like a long time ago? Like, I get that the 8 got rained off the turf, 4 back, but then 3 more dirt races. I don't know. I thought the horse ran well, though. So give him credit. I don't know about next time out. The chances are we're going to be talking about this horse in a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, and it'll be a decision because the horse isn't going to be 14-1 after that performance. And it's like, okay, are we going to take a short price here? I don't know. Where he is entered next will be the interesting thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. To back up your point, I think I talked about it yesterday. Right, he was scratched off the turf. The race was taken off the turf.
Yeah.
What about the following months? He had that opportunity. And he was running this. You brought this on the show a couple weeks ago, or maybe at the very beginning when we started a month ago. Wherever you break your maiden, you probably want to cut that price in half, or maybe 2/3 or 3/4. You don't want to run at the same level. He broke his maiden at the 50,000 level, dropped into a starter optional 25. That's where he belongs, not at a starter optional 50, even though he ran well. That's one of those things where unless you're going to win at a maiden special weight and win by 3 lengths, and then you're going to hop into an allowance that's going to be the same purse,
Mhm.
You want to be probably half or a cut, maybe starter optional 40, and then we'll have a decision. But if he's going to come back at the 50 level, I'm with you. I don't think we need him moving forward. Let's move on to the last race. I put so much stock into these New York horses. I feel like I should just walk around with a sign on my head saying New York and then the greater sign, Florida. I like the 1, Sandra's Mine. I like the 3, St. Mary Gleese, who didn't run well. The 9, who was a first-time starter, was okay. And the 10, and of course, the 287 North, another New York horse wins. Now, granted, I figured, well, the 2 just lost to the 1 by a decent amount. Wasn't horrible. I could understand it, but the 1 was right there. The 1 had the lead for a brief moment. Give me your final thoughts on this one. I just can't catch a break.
Yeah, you had some horrible. This show is like your kryptonite. Like your products are like, oh yeah, we're hitting, but this show, it's like I don't know. Like you've had some tough beats. Charles made a good point here. I thought the jock won this race. I totally agree. I ran Ortiz Jr. with a really, really good ride. And when you're in a race where it's a lot of horses that are trash, that's where the jockeys can sometimes make a little bit of a difference. And he did a good job there. Boy, what a price too, 8-1. My big takeaway overall from the race, by the way, I was nowhere near this. So just a total terrible job by me. But my big takeaway going forward, as we look into the future, which is what we really want to do on this show, as far as, okay, who do we want next out? None of them. It was kind of a blanket finish. A lot of them seemed like, they were right there with each other. I think in these type of races, you're going to just see a lot of horses trade wins, and that's kind of what this is, right? It's not a great level. It was a great ride, but these are not great horses.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In horse racing, the phrase blanket finish equals crap. That's usually what it means when someone says, oh, that was a blanket finish. It usually means those horses suck. Usually, because they can't distinguish themselves and you don't know what's going to happen until the very end. Blanket finish literally means you might see 3, 4, 5 horses within a half a length of each other at the finish. It does make for an exciting race. I'll admit that. But in terms of quality, these horses will all come back at the 20,000 level. The 1's going to take money. The 10 will take money. Obviously, the 2 will graduate into probably, a 62.5 level, maybe a 10, something like that.
Yeah.
The 3 will take money. The 9 I would definitely look at because it'll be her next start. That would be the one that if I had to pick, I'd probably want back because she didn't run against some horses that had experience.
I will say about the 9, and that probably was not fair that I said I don't want anybody back. When you have a lower level horse and like if you have a maiden special weight and they're debuting, a lot of times you'll see debut winners because they're really elite horses. Like they're ready to go. This is a lower level horse. So the 9, might improve off this, like you said, where some of these other ones, they are what they are. The 9, you might see a jump up. So I would agree with that. Sorry about that. Go on.
No. That's a really good point because when you hear, in horse racing, you hear the term buzz horse or hot horse. Like you're ready for them to make their debut, whether it's mostly on the dirt because of the Triple Crown Trail, because people like to talk about that. But even on the turf, like this horse, the 9, even if she did win, it's not like, this is a potential candidate for the Saratoga Derby down the road. Like we were never, or the Pegasus World Cup turf next year. Like we were never talking about this horse like this filly like that. So that would be the one that I would keep my eye on. I would also take the 1 Sandra's Mine back. That's about it. I know you use the 11 corded. I don't want her back.
No.
I like the 3 St. Mary Gleese. Don't need her back. Real quick, before we wrap up, we will talk about our tickets real quick here. We didn't get a chance to do that. I'm going to, on today's, someone said, Somo Bomb alluring Rumba bombed. I think if you take a look at the odds, if you were to bet a favorite in this race, I don't want to be mean, but it was a really stupid idea because this is not a race where you bet a favorite. You could see the odds almost 8-1, almost 6-1, 14.5-1. Those were your finishes. Yeah. I'll talk about today's pick 4. I'll just sum it up. I'm going to use the 1-2 with the 1-2-5-6 with the 3-4-7 with the 3, 7, 8, 10. The race that I'm interested in, and Aaron, I'll let you talk about it, was that 8th race. I think that it was 1 through 6 fields. We both used a Storm Runner, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a pace meltdown. Maybe Fort Peck gets the job done, and I would use the Queen Anne to close. It's a similar thing to Pacific Gale. The one Brasstown kind of gave it up yesterday, so we'll see if that race breaks down. That's the one I'm most interested in.
All right, yeah, race 7, I think we both are kind of on. Number 1, Dr. Shane. That's a $20 win wager for me to kind of kick off the 4-race sequence here. Race 8, $20 to win on the 5. I kind of stuck my neck out with Storm Runner here. I just kind of think this horse is kind of the class of the field. I think he's a little bit higher caliber than some of these other ones. So I think Storm Runner's got a good shot to stock and win here. And I think you're going to get every bit of 2 to 1. So I think it's worth the $20 win wager on number 5, Storm Runner in race 8. Race 9, $5 active box with the 4 and the 7. This is a wide open field, but I just kind of thought that the 4-7 exacta box made a lot of sense. 4 ultra consistent and 7 has a ton of talent. And then race 10, just another wide open claiming race there at Gulfstream. 50-cent trifecta box, 4, 6, 7, and 10 to round out. $62 today, investing a little more, try to build that bankroll up for Oaklawn tomorrow and try to cash there.
Yeah, 2 quick notes. Magic was not full of crap. This is from Naira. High winds and extreme cold forces cancellation of Friday racing at Aqueduct. So there was a little miscommunication, but it is much appreciated he was able to get us that information. So they are not canceled today. They are canceled tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's interesting. Santa Anita was canceled tomorrow. So my product usually consists of Oaklawn, Gulfstream, and Santa Anita now. So I said, I'm going to throw an Aqueduct because I want a 3rd track. I want to give people options.
Yeah.
Now I kind of wasted my time there. That's unfortunate. So I quickly sent Magic a text. I said, are they going to be running Saturday at Santa Anita? So hopefully he gets back to me. He said he was. I think they said they weren't sure. Curtis actually, you know what? This is the great thing about the show. He just responded to me and said, yes, they will be running Saturday. So tomorrow, for me, it'll just be kind of Oaklawn and Gulfstream. So on that note, we will be at Oaklawn tomorrow. If anyone's interested in Gulfstream, I'll have my product tomorrow. Today, it's just Aqueduct and Gulfstream. Next week, Oaklawn will start running again on Thursdays. So that will be it for me from Aqueduct, unfortunately. This is great. You know what? This guy is always up to date with this stuff. I give him 100% credit for being on top of it. Santa Anita, good to go Saturday. No turf stakes. Well, that's okay. We'll still get a card. And that's what racing fans want. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we got it. I think we got it covered. Just good luck to Deshaun and where he ends up next. And now Lamar gets who's going to be the passing game coordinator for Lamar? That's the question now. Like, is it going to be a wizard? Because that's what it's going to take.
Luckily for me, football season is over. I will be watching the Super Bowl, but I don't have to talk about the Ravens anymore. You know what the Ravens remind me of? They remind me of that little kid that just consistently gets better. So his freshman year or at the beginning of his career, he came in for Joe Flacco and lost in that playoff game. But what are you going to do with that? That was his first season. They had a whole new offense that was different. Then the next year, they lose again. They lose in the playoffs. That was to the Chargers. He was pretty awful on that one. Then his 3rd year, which was last year. Last year was the 2nd year. The Chargers was the 1st year. They lose to the Titans, and they got all run over. The whole team got run over. I remember Derrick Henry stiff-arming the whole team. Then this year, they finally break through. They win a playoff game. We're back. Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. Well, no, we're not. We lose to the Bills. He throws a pick 6, and that's that. So my expectations for the 2021/2022 season would be that they win one playoff game and maybe get to the AFC title. So they're just little by little getting better and better. I'm going to take a page out of the Brad Cox book, just little by little. I look at what we saw Nick Sko get. No, in all seriousness, they do need a wizard because his passing or a weapon. Let's try to get a weapon for him on the outside. I know you're an Oklahoma guy. I know you love Mark Andrews. I know you love Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown is shorter than me. He is not a number one wide receiver. Go get yourself a Des Bryant who's not 40 years old, and maybe we can improve.
Well, I'll say this. I think Hollywood is a great number 2 option. I am with you. I like Hollywood, but I'm not dumb. Like I think he's a good number 2 option. So I get it, man. I'm rooting for you. Listen, somebody's got to challenge the Chiefs, and no, wait, never mind. I'm not rooting for you because the Browns will be the team.
Right, we can root for the Browns. In all seriousness, I gotta say, moving forward, if you're a Browns fan, you've got to be excited. There are a lot of good things to look forward to. You know, it's interesting. For the first time, I'm more worried about the NFL offseason than I am about the Super Bowl. And maybe that'll pick up next week because right now, you have a whole week. On a serious note as well, good luck to David Culley. You just took the job. You're 65 years old. Then you're walking into a burning building. So congratulations to you. You have the quarterback who within minutes – I think he was hired last night, actually, like in the wee hours officially. Yeah. So this morning you wake up and your quarterback wants to be traded. Well, good luck.
Have fun.
J.J. Watt might be out the door as well. So you might be left with an aging David Johnson. That might be really good for you moving forward. I'm sure he will rush for 800 yards this year. On a serious note, everyone stay healthy, stay safe. Let's have some better racing luck today. Please, I'm begging whoever's listening. I know Pegasus Day doesn't happen all the time, but we shouldn't have to get punished for what happened yesterday. 2 second place finishes, both I would say combined for a length or so. So without further ado, we will see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll be in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Right.
Hopefully, it's not as windy there as it is in New York because I got a text from the Weather Channel saying that there's extreme advisory. So I guess Magic shouldn't be making fun of us New Yorkers. Everyone take care, be safe, and good luck today if you are playing Gulfstream or Aqueduct here on Thursday afternoon.